Kia ora, good evening. Southland's median house price has fallen over 6% compared to May, with a 3% fall in Invercargill dwarfed by a 42% fall in Gore. Compared to June last year, the region's median house price fell $36,000, with a 22% fall in Invercargill City and a 31% drop in Gore. Sales volumes were up 13% for the region compared to the same time last year. However, compared to May, sales volumes fell 8%, with a 6% fall in Invercargill and 4% in Gore. The overall trend for the region is now falling, with median house prices down, along with sales volumes and days to sell trends. Conservation Minister Nick Smith yesterday gave the go-ahead to New Zealand's largest ever pest control program.
Forest monitoring has confirmed that about 1 million tonnes of seed has dropped in this year's beech mast, and Dr Smith said the seeds will soon germinate, leaving hordes of starving rats and stoats that, if not controlled, will go on to kill millions of native birds this spring and summer. The cost of the nationwide battle for our birds program is expected to be between $9 and $12 million. There are 3 areas in Southland included in the program: the Iris Burn Valley, the Waitutu Forest area and in the Catlins. Additional monitoring will be carried out around the Dusky Sound peninsulas and the Blue Mountains.
The National-led government is already condemning the Green Party's freshwater policy as impractical and too expensive. The Green Party wants all waterways in New Zealand to be of a high enough standard to sustain ecosystems and allow swimming. Environment Minister Amy Adams earlier this month released the government's freshwater policy. The policy introduces a national freshwater standard for the first time in New Zealand's history. Hunter Andrews asked Invercargill Green candidate Dave Kennedy about his party's policy released yesterday.
Nationals say it's good enough just to be able to wade, but we think we should be able to swim in all our rivers, so lifting the standards is one part. We want to have a network of special rivers like national parks that should be protected and have that same kind of status. And that's pretty much what it is.
But what about, Amy Adams has hit back to saying that, should all waterways be swimmable? Is that what the Greens are saying, and how would you maintain them at that level?
Well, you need to have an aspirational kind of thing to aim for, and they're saying it's all right to wade. We're saying all rivers should be swimming, and we also think that it has got an economic advantage. Clean rivers support our clean green image, which supports our exports, and we should be looking at adding value to products rather than just increasing production and increasing intensification of farms. We've already got declining fish stocks. A lot of our native species are dying off, so it's having a huge effect. A lot of industries that are even based on our freshwater are suffering. There are people who want to use the eels from these water areas, and they're not able to access those if the water quality is declining as well.
The ministry would say also, though, that at least they're saying there will be a standard where previously there hasn't been.
Well, it may as well not be a standard at all if it's going to just be fit for wading. And often these things are cumulative as well, so if they're increasing the intensification of farming and spending lots of money on irrigation and expanding the dairy industry, then over time things are just going to get worse anyway.
Is there a time frame to get all these waterways cleaned up, and what sort of resources would have to be set aside to do it?
Well, I'm sure that we'd have to set aside some resources to do it, and we haven't got a timescale as yet, but we think that there definitely has to be a shift away from the current standards, which won't improve things to the level that they should be.
Before there were newsreaders, there were town criers, and today is International Town Crier Day. Patty Ann Pemberton is a town crier, and the ex-school teacher is encouraging crying as a confidence booster for speech-making school children.
Welcome to World Town Criers Day, when town criers throughout the world celebrate the craft of town crying. In New Zealand, I wish a happy Town Criers Day to all my fellow criers and to all the criers who are attending the World Town Crier Tournament in Chester. Happy Town Criers Day! We have 8 active town criers left, and when I started 12 years ago we had double that number. So we really need to get a few more out there, and I'd love to tell anybody who wants to know how they can go about it.
It does take you all over the world, this role, doesn't it?
It certainly has. This is my next month I'm heading back to Chester in England, and this will be Rod, my husband, is going to be our 3rd trip back to England and to Chester to go to a world tournament.
And next year you're having a world tournament in New Zealand.
Isn't that exciting? Yes, we are. We're bringing town criers from throughout the world to Central Otago for a week-long competition, and it's just going to be very, very exciting for not only Central Otago, but I think for the whole of New Zealand. It's going to be very vibrant and colourful and something like they have never seen before.
One of your missions is to recruit more town criers. I understand that you're trying to work with the education sector a little bit on that.
Yes, I have recently. The Paul Byrne School in the Ida Valley embraced me as their local town crier, and I went out to explain to them my role as a town crier, and I explained how I was going away to Chester for this tournament. And so the staff really came on board, and the children, and as you're probably aware that the children in schools nowadays, they actually prepare and deliver school speeches from the age of 5. So the school said, okay, this year, how about the children craft cries and deliver them as a town cry? And that involved a lot of research, and so we liaised with a school over in Chester, which was very exciting, and the children composed their cries, and the day they delivered them, we had them dressed up as a town crier, and the media was there to give them a little bit of more coverage, so to speak, and they just performed so well. I was so proud of them.
Now, you use a bell traditionally in your cries, but they had some other ideas.
They sure did. You have what is called usually an attention gathering device. The most exciting one I saw out there was the old number 8 wire with the sheep rattler with the metal rings on it. That went really well, and some other children also had a very narrow piece of PVC pipe that blew as a horn. Hadn't seen that before. That was fantastic.
So in school, a situation like that, it allows them to go over the top, I guess, with their delivery, and then they can pare it back a little bit once they get confident.
I think that's so true, because with a cry, you pen it, you craft it, and you can actually read it. With your normal school speech, that you really have to learn it by heart. You can have your notes to refer to, but it's quite nerve-wracking, and I think writing and penning a cry and delivering that is so much more an easier way to lead the children into the public speaking, and so exciting to see that the schools are now embracing it from such an early age, because I have people my age who absolutely are in dread and fear of standing up in a meeting, in a public place and speaking. So isn't it great that we're giving these kids the opportunities?
Stay with us after the break. In New Zealand, with no monetary system as we know it, and we check out some feathered peckers in Kennington. Welcome back. Venture Southland today met to discuss and consider the record number of submissions it's received for its draft annual business plan. Of the 15 submissions, 4 were presented in person at today's Venture Southland Joint Committee Advisory Subcommittee meeting. Venture Chief Executive Paul Casson says the new business plan has a very clear outline of the work program for 2014 to 15 and is a more user-friendly document in line with the organisation's new heads of agreement. Mr Casson says a wide range of topics were touched on in the submissions. The Joint Committee Advisory Subcommittee will now decide if any amendments are required to the business plan, which will be considered for formal adoption on the 18th of August. The highly successful National Brass Band competition concluded in the city yesterday. The competition attracted an estimated 1,000 musicians and supporters for the 6-day event. An event contest manager Helen Lee says went off without a hitch. She was full of praise for the Civic Theatre, which proved a more than adequate facility, allowing the competition to run smoothly for those on site and the more than 5,000 fans from around the world that tuned in to the live internet feed. The Wellington Brass Band was the overall A-grade winner, with Ascot Park Brass Band finishing 6th out of the 26 bands competing. The latest political party to find 500 paying members and register to take part in the upcoming general election is the Money Free Party. The party's philosophy would usher in a New Zealand where all work was carried out on a voluntary basis and where there was no need for a monetary system as we currently know it. Hunter Andrews quizzed Nelson-based party founder Richard Osmaston about the new movement.
Well, we're proposing that we don't even have money anymore. We don't even have trade or barter anymore. We have such abundance today. We've got such technological capability to produce the things that we need. we can all have everything, basically. That doesn't mean we're all going to get our own private jet and a Rolls Royce, but a decent standard of living, healthcare, a secure environment, taking care of the environment, that is absolutely abundantly possible now because of the recent advances in technology and our global understanding, and we can change everything in the way we do things. But I mean, our fundamental point is that after money is gone, everything will be free and everything will be voluntary, which is really important because everything that we need, everything that we would like, is produced by society. And when everything is voluntary, just like today, I mean, St John's Ambulance or the fire service is voluntary, it's not because there's a rule that we must have a fire service, it's because we all agree as a society, excuse me, that, you know, when we fall over or our house is burning, we want someone to help us. And because of the technology, the things that we need are easy to produce today, whereas they never were before. Somebody had to do hard work in the past, but hard work is gone. You know, just this morning in Invercargill, we're seeing them digging using water and vacuum. You know, you don't even see anyone digging anymore. You know, all those hard jobs have been overtaken by technology. And once they are collectively owned by society, then it's in society's interest to do them. And of course, we've got the resources to do it almost effortlessly today, actually.
What do you do about that element of society? And there always is that small percentage of people that have no empathy and are quite happy to exploit situations
Well, at the moment,
and to gather their own wealth.
At the moment, we provide them with the most prominent positions in society. They run all the big companies, they run the media organisations and our government. I mean, we've just handed them the keys to everything, absolutely everything, all our resources, all our humans, because, as you say, they are unempathetic, they are ambitious and quite often psychopathic. But when everything is voluntary, then the people who actually behave like that, when all their staff are now voluntary, will have a very different sort of performing organisation.
Internationally, how big is the movement? Is this gathering momentum?
It is. Jacques Fresco of the Venus Project, I mean, he started his organisation back in the 1940s, having witnessed the Depression in the 30s, and they've got about 30 million followers now. The Zeitgeist movement is about the same size. They've sort of run parallel with the Venus Project, and there are now 6 other money-free parties around the world. In the UK, Australia, Brazil, South Africa's just had Ubuntu in their general election. They didn't win a seat, but they elevated the whole concept of moneyless. Again, just as I found myself with the other mayor candidates on stage talking about this on a public forum, they were doing that at a national forum. You know, and well, New Zealand's election is next.
It was far from a paltry turnout of bird lovers at Invercargill Poultry and Pigeon Club's 103rd annual show over the weekend. Hundreds of feathered fanciers decided to wing their way to Kennington to check out what's considered by some the hottest birds in the south. Chickens, ducks, game bantams, fancy bantams, pigeons and cage birds strutted, pecked and crowed for the judges in a bid to pluck a win for their feather-friendly owners. Judges were looking at overall condition, plumage, colour and breeding, while competitors came from all over the South Island for the event. And that's all from the news desk this Monday. Sport follows shortly from the news team. Good night.